Hello and welcome to week 11 of the Bible in a year. Hopefully you're doing well. You've now made it through the first 5 books of the Bible known as the Torah, the books of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, then Deuteronomy. Now we're moving into Joshua. At the end of Deuteronomy, Moses has died and has passed on leadership to Joshua as the people of Israel stood at the edge of the promised land after their 40 years of wandering because of their sin the last time they got there. And so we're going to read most of the book of Joshua this week, chapters 1 through 20. The first part of it is the conquering of the land. The second part of it is the distribution of the land. Now in Joshua chapter 2, spies are sent in like before, but it's not exactly the same. It's not 12, one from each tribe. This time it's only 2, and it's really reconnaissance. Before it was uncertainty. They wanted to see what the land was like, what the people were like there, and to assess the likelihood of their conquering. This time Joshua is not leaving any room for doubt. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go in and conquer. We're not going to be like we were before. He's just going in to see what's there and to get a better idea of what they're going to face and how to approach it. And then they go in following the will of the Lord, and they conquer the promised land. It is interesting to see the distinction between trusting in the Lord and trusting in self. When you look at the conquering of the city of Jericho, it's remarkably clear that it is God's hand, because their method of conquering is not great military strength. They march around the city once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, they march around it 7 times. And then at the sound of the trumpets and the shouting of the priests, the people shout together, and the walls just fall. This massively fortified city that no one dared ever attack, the walls just crumbled, and Israel conquered. Then they go against the city of Ai. And when they first go against them, they're going with their own might, and they had disobeyed. God had told them not to take anything for themselves, and some had done that. And so God lifted his hand of protection, and the people of Ai actually won until Joshua discovered what had happened, purified the situation, and then God granted them victory. It's very clear from these passages of conquest that this is going to be God's way. God is going to deliver the land to them and not themselves, lest they feel that they've established themselves and can continue to live there according to their own rule and might. And of course, as you go forward into the histories of Israel, especially in First and Second Kings and First and Second Chronicles, we see that that's exactly what happens. There gets arrogance among the kings. They begin to think of themselves as the ruler instead of God. They disobey God, and ultimately leads to the demise of the nation. The latter half of the week is going to be a little bit of a struggle, only because it is it is a division of the land. Not having lived in Israel or know the geography, it's kind of gets a little bit tedious, but wade through it so that you get through all of Scripture. The importance of the division of the land is once again seeing that God has a design in mind. And ultimately, that's going to become important later on for where the tribes are, and based on their obedience, and the nation will split in two. The location of them becomes important. Also recognition that Judah is going to become the line of promise. So where the people of Judah are placed will ultimately lead to King David and the city of Jerusalem, and that will continue on through the line of David. But the distribution of the land shows how they will be set up. There's some that choose to stay on the other side of the Jordan River, and God allows for that as long as they participate in the conquest, which they do. And so the region becomes entirely occupied by the people of Israel, and the land distributed by the end of chapter 21, which is the first chapter of reading for next week, but we covered that a little bit here. So we see God's hand of provision for the people of Israel, just as he had provided for them in the desert. Now he provides the strength that they need to deliver the land that he had promised to them. So once again, we are drawn to the reality that this is God's will and God's plan and not Israel's. And they are simply the people through whom he is choosing to work. God's blessings as you read this week. Pray that you'll be strengthened, guided by his word as we continue to marvel at his works and his faithfulness to his people.